Hey guys, and welcome back. Over the next couple episodes, we're going to be talking about Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori is a charming hand-drawn platformer with an amazing story. Personally, this is one of my all-time favorite games, and I would really encourage you to play it yourself. So, what makes Ori and the Blind Forest have such a great story? One of the things that makes it amazing is that they show the story instead of telling it. From the very beginning, we are put into a gorgeous cutscene which really sets the mood for the game. This cutscene is powerful and relevant, using music to the fullest to really emphasize a feeling of curiosity and joy, even though the scenery is dark and ominous as the storm rages. This contrast leads us very quickly into immersion, getting us right into the game, ready to play in this beautiful world. Cutscenes are an incredibly useful tool to developers in order to set the mood for a game, convey critical story pieces, emphasize emotions and expressions that couldn't be shared while the game is being played, and to give small breaks for the player in between the sometimes intense gameplay. A fascinating tool that the developers used for Ori was right at the end of the introduction, when they restricted the control of Ori, slowing her down to barely a crawl as text flashes across the scene. I couldn't help but feel actual, real pain as Ori stumbled and fell, only to get back up again and keep crawling forward. I felt pain for a made-up character I had just encountered 10 minutes prior. This kind of storytelling is why I play games, and it couldn't have been done with just a regular cutscene, because then I wouldn't have felt quite a strong attachment. Because I was the one controlling Ori as she suffered, I felt in some way that it was my fault. All of that emotion was caused by a couple extra animations and a little text on the screen. Had they instead just told how much Ori was hurting as she ran and flipped and flew acrobatically across the screen while I controlled her, I never would have bought it. Instead, they forced the player to slow down for a moment and accept that Ori was hurting. There are many ways to tell a story, but one of my favorite ways Ori and the Blind Forest does this is through the use of afterimages. These afterimages are memories of the past, be they Ori's or another character's. In this clip, we see some of Ori's memories with Naru, and the memories solidify the contrast between the past and present, helping to show that things aren't going to be the same. This is further emphasized by the dark shadow that moves across the foreground, which will come in later on in the story. A third way Ori and the Blind Forest tells its story is through Sign, the little ball of light that follows Ori around. Sign is a companion character, a common tool used by many developers. Sign's role is to share bits of lore, advice on where to go, and sometimes share important dialogue. Many games don't do companion characters very well. Many of us have terrible experiences with a certain fairy in The Legend of Zelda. Hey! Listen! Just those words alone are enough to make me cringe. Sign isn't like this though. It only offers information when it has to, and for the most part, Sign sticks to the background and keeps its mouth shut. This makes Sign a much more likable character who actually belongs in the game, rather than just being a cheap way for the developers to tell the player what they need to know for the story. These three are just a few of the ways Ori and the Blind Forest tells its story. Without any one of these elements, the game wouldn't have nearly as good of a story. However, this doesn't mean that every game has to have tons of methods to tell the story, nor does it mean that the story in itself has to be complex. A good story in a game should tell itself. The more that has to be explained, the more the player is pulled from the immersion. All in all, this game was absolutely fantastic to play. If you haven't had the chance to go play it, I would recommend that you get it on Steam and enjoy every second. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Have fun!